Hi guys, and welcome to another Dice Tower preview. We're Randy and Ellen, and today we're taking a look at the campaign-based cooperative deck building game Penny Dreadfun by Ready Games. Penny Dreadfun plays 1 to 4 people, ages 10 and up, in about 60 to 180 minutes.
In Penny Dreadfun, Queen Victoria has disappeared during the night, equipped with an array of weapons. Some rumors have arisen surrounding this unusual departure. Could it be true that the Queen is trying to conquer yet another colony? But this time, hell itself? There are certainly enough infernal hounds and other creatures around London to back that theory up.
You're a group of unusual heroes who, driven by various motives, takes off into the city to help save the world. Each round you'll play cards from your deck to move, fight, charge cards, gather resources, and complete quests. Your deck will keep getting better as you progress on your adventure by defeating villains, buying new cards, and completing quests. For the villains' turns, they will follow the current scheme card for how they function on that turn.
Penny Dreadfun is a game of deck building and managing of your hand and resources. Holding cards back to use them at the right time and maximize their effectiveness will make your journey that much easier. When playing cards, you'll gain resources and tokens to put into your action pool. You can use these items on your turn or during others' turns, but if you do not use them before your next turn, they all go away. There is a way to mitigate this with charge cards. These allow you to store resources from round to round. Many of them even have a charge ability that can be used when they're full to their capacity. As you acquire movement tokens, up to 4 of these can be kept in your action pool for future rounds. Having a bunch of movement stored for a turn can be necessary to accomplish an objective or stop a foe from advancing. Players cooperate to win each scenario, but they will also score points individually. So each scenario has a different goal to achieve. You'll lose if the party is defeated, or if the progress token reaches the end of the hell track. At the end of the campaign, the player with the most points emerges as the hero of the story, and everyone else, they're just merely sidekicks.
Alright, now let's take a look at the setup. Setup can vary by scenario, but is generally pretty similar. This is the setup for the prologue. Create the map of London as shown for your scenario and place the listed tokens on the map. Then place the hell track and token near it. Shuffle all the decks individually. Take 4 cards from the shop deck to form the market. Also take 4 cards from the enemies of the crown deck and place them face up. Place the mini-boss next to the map and create a pool of tokens and resources within reach. Each player then selects a hero miniature, the 2 corresponding personal class cards, their personal quest, the scenario quest, and a starting deck. Place the hero and the villain miniatures on the board. Give the decision token to the first player. Anytime a decision is to be made, the token holder gets the final say. Finally, put the mini-boss on the 3rd space of the hell track.
There are 2 phases in a turn. Phase 1 is the player phase. Within this phase, there are a number of steps that you'll take. First off is to clean out your action pool of tokens and resources. Remember when we said to use them before your next turn? Well, if you didn't remember, it's now too late and you've lost everything except for up to 4 movement tokens.
Next is the move action. If you decide to move, then for every card of any type and any movement token you discard from your hand or pool, you can move that many spaces. Your movement must be done before building your action pool. The only way to move outside of this step is to discard movement tokens. You'll need to move throughout the board in order to be positioned to take various field actions, which we'll go over shortly. There are even some shortcuts one can take to traverse the board quicker. These shortcuts require some extra movement points to use, but will ultimately save you movement points over moving directly. Shortcuts also help avoid villains that may be chasing you.
Now we come to the action pool step. This is where you will play cards from your hand for their abilities. Some cards give you gold to spend at the shop, some give resources and tokens, and some give you fight tokens. Resources are used for charging cards, completing quests, and also for attacking and defending during a fight. All cards used will go to your discard pile at the end of the turn. The exceptions are charge cards. These cards will go above your player board. Most charge cards have an ability that can be activated once the card is full. Once a charge card is used for its ability, you can discard it. They're also used full for storing resources from round to round, as they are not part of your action pool, which normally gets emptied. Some quest cards also act as charge cards, and these will store trophies that mark your progress until they're completed.
All of those previous steps you took were in preparation for this next step, taking field actions. There are quite a few of these, so we'll touch on them quickly. There are 10 field actions that can be used by visiting the corresponding action token. These tokens are put out according to the current scenario's map. Buy lets you access the item shop to purchase a card. You can also spend resources that will allow you to purchase additional cards. Heal lets you destroy a status card, such as Wounded. You definitely don't want those cards in your hand, as it will reduce the number of cards you can draw up to. Spending resources allows you to heal more. Boost adds 2 movement tokens to your action pool. With Target Villain, you can shuffle villains back into the deck and draw new ones. This is a good way to get easier or harder enemies depending on what you might want at the time. After the new cards come out, take one of the villain cards and add it to your action pool so you can potentially fight it during the fight action. Event will trigger an event card to be drawn. Have another player read the card aloud to you. Some events will ask you to choose one of 2 options. The other action tokens will be available in the full game.
There are 2 other actions that can be performed on any spaces. First is trade. When players are at the same location, they can freely trade any amount of resources, tokens, and even cards from their action pool and or their discard piles. Finally, there is fight. If you end your turn on a villain figure, you initiate a fight. The fight action has 4 steps. First is to choose a villain from the face-up array to fight. Second, you'll deal damage to that villain. Damage is dealt by spending fight tokens. Each villain also has a weakness to certain resources. You can use resources up to the card limit to deal additional damage. If you spend tokens or resources equal or higher than the villain's health, you guessed it, you win that battle. Third is receiving damage. Each villain has a resource attack value, and you can spend a matching resource to prevent that damage. For each unblocked damage, however, you'll add a wounded card to your discard pile. Wounded cards, when they're drawn, are left out on your board and take away from how many cards you can draw. So they really are going to muck up your deck. Once you have 4 wounded cards out, you'll put a gravely wounded card on your board. These can't be healed, and if you acquire 4 of these cards, you are out of the game. If you've managed to win the fight, you get to add the villain card to your deck. These villain cards have abilities on them similar to other cards in the item shop, etc. Finally, draw up to your hand limit.
We are now ready for the villain phase. Villains will move based on the next scheme card drawn. You'll also move the mini-boss if it's in play. Sometimes this movement will initiate a fight at the end of this phase. If a villain figure was defeated earlier and it needs to move, add it back to the board via one of the demonic portals. Alternate these phases until you're defeated or you've completed the scenario's objective.
If players manage to win the game, the scenario will tell you how to score. Players can earn points for completing quests, closing portals, defeating villains, cards they've purchased, and events they have done. So many ways of scoring. You will also get some negative points for wounded cards. When the campaign is completely over, one of the players will emerge as a true hero, and everyone else, like we said before, just merely sidekicks. Alright all, remember this has been a Dice Tower paid preview. All of the components and rules you've seen may not be the final product or its design. Keep an eye out on the campaign for any changes that may occur. If you are looking for a campaign-driven deck-building game with some great board interaction, and especially if you enjoy cooperative games, we really think that you're going to enjoy Penny Dreadfun. I personally really like the board interaction in the game. Much of what actions you will take on your turn are dependent on what cards you'll play from your hand. You'll need to travel to spaces like the buy action with to have a bunch of gold in your hand. So if you have like a lot of gold in your hand, then you're probably gonna maybe want to go to a place where you can buy cards.
Right, exactly. I thought it was interesting too. So you'll have an array of villains out there, and you're gonna be able to pick the one that you know you're gonna be able to defeat. And at the bottom of that card, once you beat it, there's an ability there. You can add that card into your deck and then use it at a future point in the game. I thought that was really cool.
Yeah, and another neat way of like the cooperative, you're not just like have your own personal decks that you're trying to defeat villains and things. You can actually do all that trading of resources, cards, and tokens when you're on somebody else's space. So just trading, hey, maybe they really need this next turn, or they just need that one extra gold to buy something on their turn, for instance. I think
Co-op
that
at its finest.
I think that's a good way of
Yeah.
doing co-op in a deck builder.
Definitely. And I also thought it was cool too how the villains move around the board. I really like that. So after someone's turn, one of the villains will move. I do get to pick which villain moves then.
So the scheme cards will tell you essentially
That's right.
which
Okay,
ones to
the
move.
scheme
Yeah.
cards. That was cool. I thought it was really cute.
Yeah, 'cause then
somebody's
you're-
moving. And it's
then
scary
it's-
because you don't know who.
Right, and you kind of like can go towards that villain to figure out, and
Sure.
then so you can activate a fight kind of when you want to, kind of avoid a fight when you don't want to, and things. Yeah. And storing resources on charge cards, I always appreciate that in a deck builder where you can kind of carry over some things from one round to another, so that you can kind of somewhat plan ahead or hoard certain items, so you can kind of do a big push on something later.
For sure.
And then, in addition with those charging those cards is not only do they store stuff, but once they're full, then you can use all of those, discard all those resources off the card and then do an ability. So it's kind of like a dual purpose card. Anytime you got dual purpose stuff, I'm definitely a fan of that.
We're dual purpose fans.
Ultimately, if this looks like a game you'd enjoy, please check out the Kickstarter and give them your support. I know that they'll appreciate it. I'm Randy.
I'm Ellen.
And thanks for watching.
Bye-bye.